I first heard of Alex Jones sometime last year from a coworker. My coworker had said something that sounded conspiracy nut cuckoo, and since I'm cautious about choosing my battles, I didn't argue with him. In case you're wondering which cuckoo thing he said, unfortunately I don't recall, mostly because he said so many distinctly nutty things I've forgotten which specific one was associated with this occasion. But I did ask him where he had heard the idea, whatever it was, and he told me Alex Jones. I made a note to look up Alex Jones and acquaint myself with his research, but this ended up being one of those things I never got around to. Then, here and there on YouTube, I started seeing various videos debunking something or other that Alex Jones has said. I didn't pay that much attention, but I picked up the gist that his primary tactic is fear-mongering, and his primary flaw is making wild claims with little or no truth to them, otherwise known as lying. Beyond that, I learned the name of his website, Infowars.com, and completely failed to generate enough interest to visit it or learn more about him. Again, Alex Jones got slotted into the part of my brain which says, low priority, investigate later. Then a few months ago, I noticed that every time I went over to a particular friend's house, he'd turn down the volume on his computer which was always playing a broadcast from Infowars.com. He turned it down just low enough that we could talk, but loud enough that he could still hear it if there was a lull in the conversation. This friend, we'll call him Joe, is one of my oldest friends. We've known each other for decades, and although we do disagree on some things, he is a person I respect and whose intelligence I won't insult. But I'm concerned about him. To be fair, I haven't yet learned enough about Alex Jones to fully justify how alarmed I am by Joe's apparent addiction to his broadcasts, but what little I've heard is quite bad enough to at least partially justify my alarm. The bottom line is that it's time for me to stop procrastinating and seriously investigate the Alex Jones phenomenon. I cringe at this task, but since someone whose mind I care about is being warped and eroded by it, I think I have to do this. Assuming that my research doesn't lead me to become an Alex Jones fan, and really, maybe it could, maybe I'll discover meticulous, reputable documentation of every apparently spurious claim he's made, and he'll turn out to be a fount of respectable intelligence. But assuming that doesn't happen, I'd like to make a video clearly and logically explaining why listening to Alex Jones and people like him is a form of intellectual erosion. My hope is that I can get my friend to watch my video and rethink his acceptance of Alex Jones as a good source of information. I know there are already an assortment of videos available debunking specific claims or pointing out specific lies of Alex Jones, as well as more general videos complaining about his style, his tactics, etc. But I know sending my friend a bunch of links isn't the best way to reach him. And when it comes to hot-button issues, I think a conversation with Joe would go better if I could show him my video first. He might not trust the YouTube community at large, but he trusts me as a friend, so I'm probably a reasonable starting point. Joe has some attention span issues too, so hopefully this is a good way of getting him focused on a more meaningful conversation. Since I'm going to go through the trouble of doing this for Joe, I also hope that this upcoming video could prove useful to anyone else who has a friend like him. With that in mind, I'm asking for your input. I'd like to see a lot of comments on this. Don't feel obliged to limit yourself to just one comment. Say as much as you'd like, anything that you feel would be helpful to me. Remember that I'm just beginning to learn about Alex Jones. I'm not a blank slate, but pretty close, so if there are any resources that you think I should pay particular attention to, please speak up. I will, of course, be starting with his own website. Here are some questions I invite you to explore in the comments. Is Alex Jones doing any harm? If so, what kind? Does Alex Jones do any sort of good? If so, what? Can you list the tactics he uses most? Which issues do you think he has misrepresented the worst? Why do you think Alex Jones is so appealing to some people? For someone who is worried about government abuse of power, are there any reputable watchdog organizations that you would recommend as replacements for people who rely on Alex Jones as a source of information? Do you have any advice for me on how to pursue this topic? Thanks in advance for any input. I am not looking forward to this.